Hey guys, so first of all, before I start this, do me a solid favor if you can. It'd be very great. I'd be very grateful if you can. And that's like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video, as well as click on the links in the description. You can find me at all your favorite podcast affiliates: iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Audible, Amazon Music, Radio Public, Spotify, and Pandora, I believe I said, and SiriusXM to an extent. As well as you can find me at other video outlets like rumble.com and vimeo.com that have identical content to the main YT channel here, except there are some that are a little different and maybe not too YouTube friendly, so check those out there if you'd like. As well as I'm at Dailymotion and Odyssey.com. You can also find me at twitch.tv as well, and I do have a kick.com. I just haven't started that one up yet, but I will eventually down the line. I also have a Patreon. I have a patreon.com. If you want to follow me there and support me there, it'd be greatly appreciated. As well as you can find me at deviantart.com at bvw1979 and at inkbunny.net at bwroses. And you can also find me at Twitter. Follow me over at twitter.com, aka x.com, and Blue Sky and TikTok. You can find me there as well. And you guys can also support me through my online stores. I got the Fourth Wall store, it's just new, it's up and running. Got a couple of graphic tees there, as well as some non-graphic stuff, but if you want to check that out, we greatly appreciate it. As well as I have the OG Teespring store, links for that are at the bottom, while the Fourth Wall store link is at the top. Also guys, during this premiere of the video, you can support me through Super Chats as well. In the live chat, and if you just want to say hi in the live chat, give your thoughts on what I have to say here, it'd be greatly appreciated. And even during the video premiere and afterwards, comments will be open. But after the video premiere, if you weren't able to do a super chat, if you'd like to donate, the super thanks option will be open as well, along with Venmo and Cash App, which would help me out tremendously. But that's up to you, whatever you want to do. But with that said, hopefully I got everything covered there. With that said, let's get into the topic of this video. And yesterday, I came out here and I talked about my thoughts. I talked about my reaction, my thoughts on the new Michael trailer, that teaser trailer that came out, the Michael Jackson biography that was released yesterday. I gave my thoughts on it and everything, being a fan of, since I was about 2-3 years old. And to me, I think it looks really good, and it's definitely going to be a huge contender for a lot of big time awards, from Golden Globes to Screen Actors Guild to Academy, and so on. It's gonna basically be a huge contender to the point that, as I just adjust my chair here, what I'm saying is it's going to be a huge contender to the point that pretty much I think, the closer we get to the latter 2026. Early 2027 award season, it's going to become a huge favorite when it comes to some of the nominations it's going to get, like best songs, best score, best musical stuff, best effects, best this, best that, best picture, best actor, actress, you name it, supporting actor. It's going to get a lot of award nominations, and it's going to get heavily favored in a lot of those as well. But it did bring up a questionable topic in my mind, and I'm sure a lot of people are asking the same thing. And that questionable topic is, what is with the resurgence? What is it with the resurgence of biography films? Why the sudden interest in seeing basically the life story, if you will, play out? What's with the sudden interest to see the life story play out on screen? And I ask this because, we've seen in just this past year 3 biography films show up on the big screen. We've seen one on, what was it? Well, the most recent one is on Bruce Springsteen, but the other one was on Bob Dylan. I don't know why his name was escaping me there, but we saw it on Bob Dylan. We've seen it on Bruce Springsteen. And then from a sports perspective, we've seen it on the Smashing Machine, with that one guy from the UFC, from the early days of the UFC and MMA, with The Rock in that role, which, despite its disappointing run in the box office, apparently it's still going to be up for some awards, because a lot of people feel that, and this is the honest, truth, a lot of people feel that with it going to digital viewing at home and everything, digital release and then eventually physical release, that it's going to get more popular, it's going to get more of a cult following, and people are going to be more invested in it than going to the theaters and seeing it. So that's what's going to back it up. if you will, when it comes to getting, big time award nominations. But again, out of those three, we've seen a lot of, interest in the resurgence of movies. When it comes to biographies based on people's certain events or people's ties to certain events. For example, I have a couple right here. Some of the more recent examples. One of them I don't have physically, but I have digitally, is the Whitney Houston one, I Want to Dance with Somebody. And it's by the same people, it's by the same people visual-wise, if you will, and I think directorial-wise, but visual-wise. It's by the same people that's behind the Michael movie and behind another movie, two other movies actually. One of them, of course, is the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, the Queen biography, Frankie Mercury biography. And I think it's the same people that were behind this one as well, which is Rocket Man, the Elton John biography as well. And from a musical standpoint, those are the more recent biopics that came out. One of the two of the more recent biopics from a musical standpoint is what I'm trying to say, that came out and everything. And they became huge successes. People loved them. They got huge, acclaim and all that. So, that's, obviously, that's something to be proud of and everything. But it's not the only ones. They're not the only ones as well. We've seen, of course, Oppenheimer get some critical acclaim and all that. And that's based on the guy behind the nuclear bomb and the whole situation there. And then, of course, this one, from a wrestling perspective, we have the Iron Claw. And then, speaking of wrestling, we also had earlier this year the Queen of the Ring, based on Mildred Burke, the original woman wrestler that basically put women's wrestling on the map at that time, and pretty much allowed the evolution of women's wrestling to become what it is today. But when you look at these, and then, like I said, you look at the ones on Bob Dylan that came out earlier this year. You look at the one that just came out on Bruce Springsteen. You look at the one that came out on the UFC guy, if you will, the Smashing Machine. And then you look at what's upcoming next year with Michael. And then not even, not that far behind, you look at stories that, they got Ridley Scott. I think that's her name. Ridley Scott. She's, she's going to be in this biography on this nurse that also did MMA fighting or boxing or something like that on the side. And then you have another one based on somebody that was a female boxer or MMA fighter. You got that one coming. And then you got this project that was announced at CinemaCon earlier this year, to where you're going to have this one director. I don't know if it's the same guy behind Michael or somebody different. But you're going to have this one director that's going to do 4 Beatle biography picks. But basically, what's interesting about these 4 Beatle biography picks is they're all essentially the same movie, but from the different point of view of each Beatle. And that's something that's never been done, as far as we know, that you have the same movie, but it's being told and seen through the perspective of, different members of the group. Like, you're going to get a different perspective from John, different perspective from Ringo, from Paul, from George, So it's going to be an interesting kind of viewing experience, because, unless you're an avid movie watcher, and you want to binge those back to back, in the theaters, you might be more like, I'll wait week after week after week and just go one week, then the next week, and the next week, and the next week to see it, but see it from the different views of, of the band members. But again, it brings up the question as to why the sudden interest. And again, I think it's mainly, what it is enough time has gone by. Enough time has gone by to the point that, I think pretty much anybody that's connected to the family, estate-wise and all that, they're pretty much, given the okay. They're like, yeah, enough time has flown by. You can say what you want, or not say what you want. You can do a movie, tell the story so that people can, get the idea that, hey, this glitz and glamour and all that these people have been getting it doesn't come as easy as you think it is. This is what they've had to go through to make it happen. You know, this is what they went through personally to, you know, get to that point. You know, these are the highs and the lows and all that. So I think it's more along the lines of timing, and I think that's why you're seeing a resurgence. You're seeing a resurgence because the timing, you know, has passed enough. It's passed enough to where things like this could be pretty much okay to do. Now, are there a few exceptions behind the scenes, like a few stipulations and agreements? Yeah, you know, from a legal perspective, yeah. I mean, look at Michael. That was supposed to be out this year, and the second part was supposed to be out this year or next year, and that's not happening because of, you know, some legality behind the scenes of, you know, stuff that they filmed that they weren't supposed to film or weren't supposed to talk about. So, you know, so yeah, there's always going to be some things here and there that hold, you know, the full context back. But at the end of the day, I think it's just a valid interest to want to, you know, see the whole truth. And I think on behalf of those that are still around, you know, that want, you know, that are okay with the story being told, it's, you know, their way of saying, hey, look, you know, our rise to the top wasn't as easy and glamorous as you think it was. We had to go through all this. And the same goes with the family of those that are no longer with us, pretty much, you know, saying the same thing to the audience like us that believes that. So I think it's more along the lines of, you know, timing of, okay, now, you know, it's time for people to fully understand the context in and out of how this, you know, how this person came to be, or how this event and this person tied to it came to be as well. But I think that's what it is. I think it's just the context, and I think honestly, with Hollywood too, you need more ideas, movie ideas, and what better movie ideas to go with than a biography on somebody's life. But that's just my take, guys. Let me know what yours is down below in the comments, and until next time.